Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak. Let's start this segment by taking a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, where the major story is on presidency mom as Obasanjo and IMF slams Tinubu's reforms. Right as I say, Nigeria under state capture, that's according to the ex-president. Initiatives confronted by adjustment fatigue. This is a statement coming from the IMF. You find, of course, this story on page 4. Below there is an infography of, recent comments by the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, on the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where he made a lot of, talks, criticism from September 5th, 2023. Then there is May of 2024. August of 2024 and October of 2024. So you can dive into the fourth page of the Daily Trust to get that story. Below there we see power outage, small businesses turn to alternative energy. Options costly, depletes capital, and traders and artisans are the ones saying this. Man's exporters tax federal government on green electricity. You find that on page 19. Former NIA DG Zachary son dies same day. That's really sad. War on Gaza, UN Committee, Human Rights Watch indicts Israel for genocide. APC retains Ondo as Aida is elected as governor. These are the stories that you'd find on the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's quickly take a look at the Nation. Top of the page, NDDC to pump 1.9 trillion naira into 1,006 legacy projects. Agency to charge narrative or change narrative. How to tackle rising food crisis by experts. Policy plan must change. Olubadan asks Sultan to continue promoting religious tolerance. JAM begins accreditation of centers for 2025 UTME. Below the headlines there we see Obasanjo's comment on Tinubu mischievous, says Afenifere chief. Nigeria, India to deepen trade and military partnership. Tinubu awards GCON to Indian Prime Minister. Beside that, we see Tinubu in Brazil for the G20 summit. Major story is why Aida secured total victory in governorship election. APC candidate wins in all 18 councils. The PDP rejects the results. Tinubu Ganduje governorship hail the victory. Now, these are some of the stories. All right, I think about APC dares or clears all council chairmanship seats in Ogun State. PDP wins all seats in Zamfara Council. These are the stories that you find on the Nation newspaper this morning. Now, quickly, let's dive into the review on these pages. We have our reviewer, Dr. Theophilus Abbah, the program director of Daily Trust Foundation, joining us to dissect at the front pages. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Always a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Doctor, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Former president hitting once again to the current administration about certain concerns, blaming President Tinubu's reform. What is your take on that?
Well, Obasanjo, let me say, is one man who doesn't mince words. If anything, I don't think he's a hypocrite. We have seen him talk frankly on national issues. You can actually fault his regime because there are some things he did which were not, which ought not to have been. Some persons have also criticized him, but over the years, you see him talking about governments. Some of the things he says, even if those in power don't like it, some of them align with what we face in the country. For instance, he made it very clear here that the president did not seem to have an agenda, that he came to power without any plan. Well, the president needs to convince Nigerians that there was a plan. Because what some of the things that happened, he talked clearly about the removal of fuel subsidy and the devaluation of the naira. He talked about it. And if you look at it, he said, for you to remove subsidy, there are other things you ought to do. And over the years, many people have complained, even those of us in the media who have complained, that it is good to remove subsidy, but then there are things that need to be put in place. For instance, if you remove subsidy and there's, transport vehicle for mass transportation, where people don't even need to drive their cars. Unless you want to say, okay, I want to enjoy myself, I have to drive my car. The road network need to be okay. Then the refineries, we're talking, that look, the refineries need to work so that you refine fuel locally. If you refine locally, the price will come down. But if you import fuel and you're asking Nigeria to pay, in dollars, you are paying naira, but actually the price you are paying is actually the dollar value of your naira. It will lead to a lot of problems. And those are some of the things that he talked about. You remove a subsidy, but there are no, means of transporting people massively. You remove subsidy. I don't think there's any way they deliberate attempt to cushion the effect of the subsidy. We are talking about CNG buses. Well, it's good to have CNG buses, but they are not even available. We're thinking that, before you do so, you wet the place with CNG buses. Because what we expected was that if you remove subsidy, you're actually saving the money.
Yeah.
If you don't want people to steal the money, and that's why you remove subsidy, then, you could have used this money to bring in this bus to reduce cost of transportation. What people complain about is basically the cost of transportation. And then, of course, when you devalue the naira, people say when naira should find this value in the competitive market. There's nothing like that. It's actual devaluation of the naira. Before the action the president took, naira was about 700 in the black market, 700 to a dollar in the black market. But then when the action he took, when he took that action, discovered that the value began to go down. Now we're having the 1,700 to a dollar. It is totally unacceptable. I don't think there's any country except one country like Lebanon. Lebanon suffered so much, and that was because the crisis that Lebanon faced to lead to that kind of devaluation or inflation. We are not facing that crisis. We are facing real war. You understand?
Yeah.
A lot of blockade. But in the case of Nigeria, you are telling us that apart from Tanzania is it $3,000, $3,000 of their own currency dollar. Apart from Tanzania, and maybe one or two other countries, the value of the naira is worse in Africa.
It really
it's
breaks our heart.
It's not acceptable.
It really breaks our heart, Doctor. But in all of this, Nigerians have blamed President Tinubu for listening more to this international organizations, talking about the IMF and even the World Bank. But then the IMF are saying initiatives are confronted by adjustment fatigue. Yes. What is your take on what the IMF are saying right now?
Well, if you read the IMF documents, I read them regularly. The IMF makes suggestions. You say, look, you are devaluing. You have to allow the naira to find its value because they don't call it the value. You have to remove subsidy because people are stealing the money. Because they give you the reasons why. Remove subsidy on petroleum because this subsidy is not working. People are stealing the money. Remove subsidy on electricity is not working. The value of naira and all they say all those things. But then they have their own recommendations as well. They keep talking about this cash transfer, conditional cash transfer, bring more people into it. And all this and all that. Now, IMF can recommend. And we have to understand the context of their recommendation. They've lent you money. They lent money to you, and they want to recover their money. So they say, okay, we are giving you this money. If you do A, B, C, D, your economy will be in a state that you can pay back. You understand? So they are not just talking about your own economy. They are talking in the context of the money they have lent to you. And that's what Nigerians don't tend to realize. Now, the IMF does not stop you from doing other things that can help the economy. The IMF will not stop you from providing mass transportation facilities. The IMF will not stop you from making sure that your refineries work. The IMF will not stop you from boosting any aspect of your economy. They are telling you that, look, we are giving you money. These are the things we think you must do. They do the analysis. If you read it, they have experts who see the analysis and say, okay, these are the things you must do. And then even part of their recommendation, okay, you need to embark on some fiscal policies. They may not tell you exactly what to do, but you are the one running the system. You are the one who should know the fiscal policies that you must embark upon. And that is why I keep saying that in Nigeria, we need local initiatives to deal with our economy. We need local policies. You don't just wait for IMF to do their own research and recommend and dump on you.
Indeed.
You know, you are not even under obligation.
But isn't this a case of IMF pushing him to do something and then stepping back to say, what you are doing is actually wrong?
I don't think I will blame the IMF because IMF, they give you recommendation based on their own interest. But you have your own interest. They will tell you that, okay, well, we know you are adjusting, but the adjustment is creating too much fatigue. People are suffering.
So at the end of the day, you are the one
responsible. You can't blame IMF.
Yeah.
I think there's a columnist who is writing something on how Turkey overcame the IMF. IMF can recommend, even World Bank can recommend, but you mustn't, take on that. You can look at the issues in relation to how you pay your debt, fine. But then the fact is that you are the one running the economy. It's not the IMF that is running the economy for you.
Well,
so
the presidency are yet to comment on this, so we would have to wait.
I think they commented in another. I think the nation said that they were saying it was Obasanjo's comments was mischievous and all this. But then
it's always we can
actually guess what they will say.
All right, moving on from that to the outcome of a lot of decisions that is happening or not happening in Nigeria. Talking about power outage, we know how we've been suffering for the longest time, but then recently it has even become worse. And then right now, small businesses that are already facing fuel subsidy effect, and even the fluctuation of the naira, now have to deal with a power outage. What is your take on it, saying that they have chosen alternative, but then it's also costly?
I don't think there's any alternative that will not be costly, because previously small businesses were, using diesel or petrol. If you know that, your business requires a lot of energy, like maybe even if you are grinding things, like someone who uses a grinding machine, you grind food items for people. You need either diesel or petrol. If you are a fabricator, you fabricate iron and to other things, then you need diesel generator. You understand? But the price of these things too have gone up because of the effect of the removal of subsidy and the devaluation of the naira. So any little thing you take to any small business, even barbers, I remember I used to barb my hair for 100 naira, 150, 200, but now I pay 800 to 1,000. Those are local shops. I don't go to, because they have to use solar, and even the solar, I understand that a solar battery, which used to be around 90,000, 80,000, 90,000, is now about 300,000 per battery. So if you are using two batteries, you are talking about 600,000 for two batteries. Now, if your shop uses two batteries, for instance, you can't even do much. You can't do. But then, for you to recover the 600,000, you need what you call economy of scale. You have to do a lot. You need a lot of customers to be able to do that. So it's not a funny situation. It's not a very funny situation, because small businesses that need electricity, if you can't get the electricity, then you have to get your own source. You have to source your own energy, and it doesn't come easy. If it is petrol, if it is diesel, if it is solar, none of them comes easy in Nigeria today.
Yeah.
And then you see, the purpose of government is to make life easy for the people. You see, it's not to create hardship. Some years ago, I read a book. It's about economics, and the author was saying that in America, it's not acceptable to cause the people to suffer in the name of future benefits.
Yeah.
You understand? I've listened to speak by American president. No American president comes to office to say, okay, I want you to suffer today so that tomorrow will be great. Nobody knows what happens tomorrow.
Indeed.
And since I knew what government does, from the 90s, I've heard about SAP, which was to make a great future for Nigerians. I lived through the 8 years of Buhari, which was always talking about the future, and that future never came. And then we're having a system that is talking about another future. I don't know where that future is. because I've never enjoyed any government.
It is really sad,
So it's quite sad.
Yeah, the youth
I don't
are
know where the
saying
future is.
we want to see that future that you've promised us for the longest time. But quickly, Doctor, I want to get your take on the Ondo poll that happened. Now, currently, INEC and PDP disagree over alleged fraud in Ondo poll. What is your take? Did you observe the election?
Well, I didn't go to the anyway, but we watched what was happening on television and read some of the things that happened in newspapers. And sincerely, we expect, and INEC promised that they will rectify some of the mistakes that they have made in previous polls in Ondo. And I don't think it happened expressly because Beavers was failing. Beavers failed in some places. And then we heard that there was, vote buying. Vote buying was rampant. It was open. It was a shameless thing. And then PDP is complaining that look, there was electoral fraud. So we are looking at a situation whereby an election will take place in this country. We have all the instruments, sincerely. You have Beavers and you have IREF. A lot of money went into Beavers, and then we are not maximizing the benefits. Rather, we are even undermining the technology. It's not good.
With all of this happening, what does it say to the democracy?
There was a low turnout in that election. Yes. There was a low turnout.
Very low.
And if you know Ondo State, historically, Ondo State is a politically active state. A state where people are...
They are quite knowledgeable.
Quite knowledgeable. But in this case, there was a low turnout. And I keep thinking that people are, let me say, getting discouraged. Because we know that, even if you go out to vote, they will write their results. Even if you do accreditation, the result will not come out in line with what was accredited, the number of people that were accredited. So people are losing interest. Because
it really breaks my heart that is going on, Doctor.
I think the INEC chairman and his commissioner, they need to wake up because the box starts
due
on their
to time
desk.
constraint, Doctor, we have to put a stop to the show. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
You're welcome from leave.
All right, with that, we wrap up Daybreak on Trust TV. Top of the hour, Adeni Ajishafe will bring you 360 Sport. I am Sumaya Abubakar. To have a lovely Monday.